She took off her ring at the hotel bar but didn't know I was behind the piano player. She told me she was going to a business conference, just a few days to network and recharge. I wanted to believe her. Really, I did. But something in her tone, the way she avoided eye contact, how her smile lingered just a second too long. It wasn't right. Then I saw the hotel footage. Not sent to me by anyone. I found it myself. But I'm getting ahead of the story. It started the morning she packed her suitcase. She was oddly cheerful, humming a tune as she folded clothes I hadn't seen her wear in years, tight-fitting, low-cut dresses she used to save for vacations, not conferences. She sprayed perfume on the inside of the suitcase. Who does that? I didn't ask. I just noted it. Then, before she left, she kissed me on the cheek, not the lips, and said, "Don't wait up." Long panels, late dinners. I watched her drive off, and instead of brushing off the doubt like I used to, I sat down at her desk. Nothing snoopy, just a quick glance. That's what I told myself. That's when I saw the open tab on her browser. It wasn't for the conference she claimed to be attending. It was a different hotel in a different city. At first, I thought it was a mistake. But when I picked up her passport cover from the drawer, it had a folded train ticket tucked inside. Wrong destination. My hands didn't shake. They balled into fists. She didn't just lie. She planned this. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling while a familiar tune repeated in my mind. A song she'd been listening to lately on repeat. One we hadn't danced to in years. It was the same one we had our first slow dance to at the wedding. The next morning, I made a choice. I booked a room at that very hotel under a different name using a different card. I wasn't going there to scream or make a scene. I just needed the truth. And I needed her to know that I knew in a way she'd never forget. When I arrived, I wore a black suit. Not flashy. Classic. Clean. The kind you wear to an important meeting or a final goodbye. The bar was elegant. Grand piano in the corner. Dim lighting. Live music. I found the pianist backstage before his set, slipped him an envelope with cash, and explained that I'd like to take over for the evening. Just 1 hour. One playlist. He laughed until he saw how serious I was. He nodded. I sat at the piano, fingers brushing the keys lightly, rehearsing old songs from memory. I'm not a pro, but I play well enough. She'd never expect me here. Never even look closely at the man in the dark corner playing the background music to her Betrayal. I was halfway through a smooth jazz piece when the elevator doors opened. She walked out wearing a dress I'd never seen before, tight red silk, no jacket. Her hair styled like she was on a date, not at a conference. And she wasn't alone. He was younger. Cocky. Holding her waist like he'd done it before. She laughed. Not nervously. Not politely. But like she was free. She didn't see me. Of course not. Why would she look behind the piano player? They sat at the bar. Ordered drinks. And then she did it. She took off her ring. Placed it in her clutch like it meant nothing. She whispered something in his ear. He smiled. She sipped her cocktail. My hands froze over the keys. But only for a moment. Then I played our song. Softly at first. Then louder. Her posture changed. She looked up. Confused. She glanced around the bar. Searching. And when the music reached the chorus, she turned her head toward the piano. I kept my eyes on the keys, pretending I didn't see her staring. But I felt it. Her heart dropping. Her world cracking. She knew it was me. And the man next to her? He noticed her face go pale. He leaned in, asked something. She didn't respond. I finished the piece, let the final note linger, then slowly stood up. Still no eye contact. Still no scene. Just the quiet realization settling on her shoulders like a collapsing building. I walked past them without a word. The only thing I left behind was a folded note placed neatly on top of the piano. I didn't look back. I didn't need to. Her silence behind me was louder than any scream could have been. I walked calmly to the elevator, pressed the button, and waited. Not a single tremor in my fingers. Not even when I felt her eyes drilling into my back. I don't know what she told the guy or if she said anything at all. That wasn't my concern anymore. The elevator doors opened and I stepped in without hesitation, leaving behind the scent of betrayal and a melody that would haunt her far longer than anything I could say. When I got back to my room, I sat down and took a long breath. It didn't feel like victory. It didn't even feel like closure. It felt like the beginning of something darker, something heavier than I thought I could carry. But I wasn't done. Not yet. This wasn't about revenge for the sake of pain. This was about truth. About consequences. About showing her who she really was, stripped of the lies she used to decorate her life. I opened my phone and played back the recording. I had set my own small camera up near the piano. Nothing fancy. Just enough to capture the scene, her dress, her laugh, her hand slipping off the ring, her leaning into him like I never existed. And the song. The one I played on our wedding night. The symbolism was too sharp to ignore. I didn't send the video right away. I watched it. Once. Twice. 3 times. Each time, it chipped away a little more of the love I had left. I remembered all the mornings I made her coffee just the way she liked. The nights I stayed up talking her through her stress. The birthday she forgot because she said she was swamped at work. I thought back to that moment when I proposed, shaking with nerves, believing I'd found my forever. And now here she was, dancing on the ashes of all that with someone she barely knew. I sat at the desk and wrote a message. Simple. Cold. Final. Thought you should see how your daughter spends her business trips. Attached was the video. I sent it to her parents. Not out of spite, but because they had always believed she was perfect, incapable of anything remotely wrong. Maybe they deserved to know who they raised. Maybe they didn't. But I was done protecting her image. Then I wrote another note. This time to her. I didn't send it. I just wrote it out to get the poison out of me. You played a role so well, I almost forgot it was a lie. Almost. But even actors forget their lines when the music hits too close to home. I folded it and placed it on the bedside table. An hour passed. Then a knock at the door. I didn't answer. It came again. This time softer. More desperate. Please, she said from the other side. Her voice cracked. Please open the door. I stayed silent. I didn't know, I didn't think, I didn't mean. The words tangled in her mouth. She didn't know which excuse to lead with. I saw you, she whispered. I heard the song. I knew it was you. I panicked. Please. I stood there, inches from the door, heart thudding like a war drum. My hand hovered over the handle, but I never turned it. She knocked again, then slid to the floor, her sobs barely muffled through the wood. I let her cry. She had every reason to. I pulled out my bag and started packing. 10 minutes later, silence. 15. 20. I looked through the peephole. She was gone. The hallway was empty. I opened the door and looked down. There, on the floor, was her ring. She must have dropped it when she fell. Or maybe she left it on purpose. I didn't pick it up. Instead, I walked past it, took the elevator down, and checked out. The receptionist didn't say much, but her eyes lingered on mine a little longer than necessary. Maybe she knew. Maybe not. Maybe the kind of pain just has a scent people can recognize. Outside, the city was cold. The wind cut through my jacket, but I welcomed it. At least it was honest. I walked until my legs ached. Until the lights of the hotel were distant behind me. Until I felt like maybe I could breathe again. At one point, I stopped at a park bench and just sat. I don't know how long. Minutes, maybe hours. I replayed every detail of the last 2 days in my head like a movie with no ending. But there was an ending. And I was the one writing it now. By the time I got back home, everything felt colder. The furniture, the air, the silence. It was like the house had been waiting to reveal its emptiness all along, and now, with her lies exposed, it didn't have to pretend anymore. I stood at the doorway for a long time, not really knowing what I expected to feel. Regret? Relief? Nothing came. Just a strange numbness that settled into my chest and refused to move. I unpacked mechanically, folding the few clothes I had brought with me and placing them back into drawers we used to share. Her side of the closet still had her scent. I thought about removing her things, boxing them up, but not yet. Not that night. I didn't want the sound of cardboard filling up my silence. I didn't hear from her the next day. No calls. No texts. Just silence. The kind that says everything louder than words ever could. I imagined her face when she realized what the footage meant, how far I was willing to go to show her the mirror. I imagined the conversation with her parents. The way her mother would gasp and her father would lower his eyes and say nothing because he'd always been the kind to retreat in shame rather than confront it. I pictured the unraveling of her carefully curated life, the lies she told not just to me but to everyone. Around noon, my phone lit up. Her name. I let it ring. Then again. And again. Finally, a message. I messed up. I know. I don't expect you to forgive me, but can we talk? Please. I stared at the screen for a full minute before locking it. I didn't block her. Not yet. A part of me needed to know what her next move would be. Whether this was genuine guilt or just damage control. That evening, I went through our shared photo albums tucked away on a shelf we rarely touched. Each picture felt like a knife now. Smiles that meant nothing. Vacations we barely spoke during. That one anniversary dinner where she said she was just tired from work, and now I wondered who she was texting under the table. I took the albums and placed them in a box. Then I opened my laptop and began changing passwords. Bank accounts, streaming services, even the silly joint grocery list app we used. It felt symbolic, like cutting the strings one by one. I removed her emergency contact status, switched beneficiaries, called the utilities. This was the funeral before the divorce. Late that night, I heard a car outside. Then footsteps. Then a knock. I didn't move. The knock came again. Firmer this time. "Please," she said, voice small. "Just let me explain. You don't even have to say anything. Just let me talk." I remained still. "You were never supposed to see that. I mean, I didn't plan for this to happen, not like this. I just needed space. I felt like I couldn't breathe at home anymore. I was confused." She paused, maybe realizing how pathetic that sounded. "You were always good to me. I know that. Too good, maybe. And I thought I wanted something different. Something exciting. But it was nothing. He was nothing. I swear it didn't mean anything. That line, the classic script. If it didn't mean anything," I finally said, my voice cutting through the door like ice, "then why did you take off your ring?" Silence. And for once, she didn't have an answer. I didn't open the door. Eventually, I heard her footsteps retreat. The engine start. The car drive away. I stayed up that night replaying the moment she took off the ring. It haunted me more than the kiss or the laugh. It was the casualness. The way she did it without hesitation, like it was just a piece of metal and not a promise. That small action said everything. The next morning, I contacted a lawyer. I didn't tell anyone else. Not yet. I wasn't looking for sympathy or validation. I just wanted it done. Quietly. Cleanly. The way she hadn't done anything. The lawyer was calm, methodical. Asked if I had evidence. I nodded and handed over a USB drive. She watched the footage, eyes narrowing just slightly. "I've seen worse," she said. "But rarely this poetic." That night, as I was cleaning the piano keys with a cloth, I found something I hadn't noticed before. Tucked just beneath the lid, a folded napkin. It was from the hotel bar. I opened it. Her handwriting. Messy. Smudged. "I'm sorry. For everything. For forgetting who we were. For making you a stranger in your own story." I sat there holding it, feeling nothing. Not anger. Not sadness. Just a kind of tiredness that settles into your bones when you realize a chapter is truly closed. I burned the note in the fireplace. Then I sat at the piano and played that song again, one last time. But this time I didn't play it for her. I played it for myself. The divorce papers were ready in less than 2 weeks. I didn't ask for much, just a clean break. No drama, no begging for what was already lost. She didn't contest it. In fact, she never showed up in person. Her lawyer handled it, emotionless and efficient. I guess that's what we had become in the end, an arrangement, not a marriage. Something that could be dissolved with a few signatures and a file number. It was strange how easily the legal system could undo years of shared memories, like none of it ever mattered. Like the vows we once whispered to each other in front of family and friends were nothing more than temporary contracts waiting to expire. I thought the emptiness would feel unbearable, but instead it felt like fresh air. Quiet, yes, but peaceful. I started rebuilding my days without her shadow stretching across them. Morning coffee with no awkward silence. Dinners that didn't involve staring across the table at someone already a million miles away. The silence in the house no longer screamed at me, it just existed. And eventually it began to soothe. I found myself playing piano more. Not the wedding song anymore, but new melodies, improvised, uncertain but honest. I'd leave the windows open when I played, letting the music drift into the neighborhood like a slow exhale. Sometimes I caught neighbors pausing outside, listening for a moment. I didn't mind. Music, unlike people, never lies. She tried reaching out again, weeks later. A long message. Rambling. She wrote about memories, our trip to the coast, the night we stayed up watching old movies, the way I used to hum to myself when I worked late. She said she missed those things. That she missed me. That she didn't realize what she had until she watched it walk away without a word. She asked if I could ever forgive her. If there was any part of me that still believed in what we were. I stared at the message for a long time. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. But I didn't reply. Not because I hated her, I didn't. I just had nothing left to give. You can't pour water from an empty glass, and she drained me dry long before that night in the bar. Instead of responding, I went for a walk. The air was cool. Early fall had started to strip the trees bare, but it was beautiful in its own way. Honest. Unapologetic. The way things should be. I passed by a small jazz lounge tucked between 2 buildings downtown, one I hadn't noticed before. A sign outside read, "Open piano night, anyone can play." I paused. Maybe it was impulsive, maybe it was healing, but I walked in, nodded to the bartender, and sat down at the old upright in the corner. I played something new. Something wordless but full. People turned to listen. A few clapped when I finished. I just smiled, thanked them, and walked out into the night, my hands warm from the keys. I don't think closure comes all at once. It trickles in through the cracks left behind. In the quiet mornings, the peaceful nights, the small things you do just for yourself. It's not one grand moment of release, it's 1,000 tiny ones. And I'd started collecting them. I deleted our photos, not out of spite, but to make room for new ones. I rearranged the house, took a trip, talked to people I'd lost touch with. Bit by bit, I reclaimed myself. The last time I saw her, it wasn't planned. She was walking out of a bookstore downtown. Alone. Hair different, face tired, smile hesitant. She saw me and froze. I nodded once. No wave. No confrontation. Just a small gesture to say, I'm okay. I walked past her and didn't look back. That was all the closure I ever needed. Now, when people ask what happened, I don't tell them the full story. Not because I'm ashamed, but because some stories don't need to be retold, they just need to be understood. And I understand it now. She took off her ring thinking it meant freedom. What she didn't realize was that the moment she slipped it off, she set me free too. If you've ever been in a place where trust was broken, where love was used like a mask, where you felt invisible in your own relationship, just know this, you don't need to scream to be heard. Sometimes all it takes is a quiet melody in the background, a slow, deliberate goodbye, and the strength to walk away before you're broken beyond repair. Thank you for listening to my story. If it hit home for you, leave a comment, share your own, and don't forget to subscribe for more true stories like this one. You never know who needs to hear it next.